What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are checking out the Hotone Ampero Mini. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name's Kyle, and what I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar gear, I record it with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio at your end. On your end, not on urine. On your end. So if you're into E standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes that can barely pronounce words properly, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so recently I have been diving down the rabbit hole of the affordable amp modeling pedals, and honestly I have not met one that I have not been impressed with yet. Like, the price for what you get in most of these scenarios just seems to be way better than I was initially expecting when I started kind of taking this journey. But today, I'm just gonna start this video right off by saying, for me so far, this has been the clear winner in a number of categories. This is the brand new Hotone Ampero Mini. Now I'm gonna follow that statement up with a disclaimer because Hotone did reach out to me. They asked me to share this with you guys here on the channel. This is a sponsored video and they are paying me to share it with you. So feel free to take everything that I say with a massive grain of salt, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys, as I always am, and in my honest opinion, in my limited amount of experience with these budget modeling units, this one for me just takes the cake without hesitation. Because not only do the models on this thing sound good, but really the functionality, something that I don't talk about here on my channel a ton because we are belligerent amateurs. We like to dial in our one tone, grip it and rip it, we're done, we're set. But truly guys, the functionality on this and the quickness with which I was able to figure out the functionality with this unit, as you can see, there are no parameter controls anywhere on the front, and that is because this is a touchscreen operation unit, and the touchscreen on this thing is so responsive. And one reason why I find that impressive is because the price. This is $229 US, and at 229 bucks, I just was not expecting something that had this responsive of a touchscreen. On top of that, I was able to figure out how to get into the menus of this thing and start altering the functionality of these buttons to get them to do what I want, which normally I'm very ADHD, so I get frustrated with these modelers trying to really dive in depth and figure out the controls and stuff. And with this one, I honestly did not have any issues figuring out everything that I wanted to do. So before I get too long-winded in this intro, what I have done is I have kind of gone through, selected a couple of my favorite models for certain things, made a couple of presets on here. So we're gonna explore those. Now, as far as the I/O on this unit, it's very limited on the back here. We have an output for an additional control or expression pedal. We have our input, we have our output, and this is going to send your signal to whatever it is that you're trying to send it to, whether that be front of house, whether that be a power amp like we are gonna do towards the end of this video, or if you want it to go straight into your interface as we are doing right now. And even though there is only one output, this actually has stereo output capabilities. You just need to get a TRS-Y splitter cable and you will have left and right output options. And what many of you are going to ask, yes, you can control the cabinet on either the left or the right side. So if you want to send one signal to the front of house with an impulse response on it and the other signal to your power amp through a cab for stage volume, you can do that. And on something as small as this with the limited I/O, I think it's awesome that they found a way to make that work. So otherwise, we've got an auxiliary in, we've got a headphone out, we've got a volume control on the back here. We have a USB-C interface, so you can plug this in, load up your own impulse responses. And then we have our power supply. Another bonus about this is 9 volt, 500 milliamps. So you can throw this on pretty much any standard pedal board with a standard pedal board power supply, and you can use it. You don't need a special power supply to do so. So I think implementing this into a pedal board rig or as an effects only unit on your pedal board is super easy because of that. One area where I do have to knock it though, there is no on-off switch on this thing. So when you plug it in, it's always on, which I find kind of annoying, but not a huge deal. If you're not using it, you're just gonna have to pull that power plug off. So with that said, we're gonna go into my first preset here, and I'm gonna show you what I have going on. You hit the edit button, it kind of brings you into the screen here and gives you everything that you are able to do within this preset. We've got 2 effects blocks, we've got an amp, we've got a noise reduction dedicated block, a cab, EQ, a third effects choice, we've got delay and reverb blocks, and then we've got tempo and volume controls here. And you just single click on each one of these in order to see what's going on. Individually turn them all on or off because they all have a power button here on the left-hand side. If you want to go in and edit the parameters, you hit edit and it takes you in. It gives you a list of amp models, including the one that you are currently on. You press the left and right arrows in order to get back and forth between the controls. And in order to change those parameters, you click on it and you can either fine tune it by pressing these plus or minus buttons to go up or down one, or you can just slide it with your finger to make your big adjustments and then hit that fine tune to get it exactly where you want it. Another area where I will have to knock it though is on the amp modeling. Each amp basically gives you the same exact controls. You get gain, presence, master, bass, middle, treble. There are no additional controls to kind of line up with the real world controls on the amplifier like I found on some of the other multi-effects units. Like with a PV 5150, you get a resonance control on some of them. On here, you will not get that. No depth controls on an SLO, anything like that. So a minor negative in that regard, but we have an Engels Savage 1 model here. And if we go back, we're gonna go into the cabinet. And then for our first effects pedal, we have a super drive like an SD1, and everything else is off. And here is that tone that you guys heard in the intro. And I think that sounds really awesome. Another thing that I love about the cab modeling section on this thing, we are not in the cab, we are in the pedal. Get it together. In the cab modeling section, we get different microphone types, which is very nice, and I have found that most of them actually sound pretty close to the real thing with some adjustment. And you actually get a lot of adjustment parameters. You get X, Y, and Z positioning parameters for that microphone, and you can really start to get it to sound like the real deal. You can turn on a high cut and you can adjust that frequency. So if you were to, say, take it down to around 1150, a lot of that top end fizziness is gonna disappear. So yeah, just by having that high cut on and where you set it, it can have a pretty significant effect on the amount of that digital fizziness. And make it sound much more natural. And then you hit save and you hit OK, and that's all it takes to save the parameters that you've changed. Of course, we got to hit that 5150 because I am the resident 5150 nerd here on eBay. This is YouTube though, so I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so one thing that I have noticed about the modeling, they start you with the gain roughly around 50 on most of these models, and that just seems to be way too high if you're boosting it in the front end. So pulling the gain down to 25. Definitely not hating that. Let's hit the presence. Let's bump that presence up a little bit and get some more bass on this thing as well. We need some belligerent chuggery. That sounds really good to me. One thing I am noticing about this unit, and I've noticed on a couple of other units, when you ring out, especially when you have a lot of gain going on, there is maybe a little digital artifacting going on. Sometimes I notice it, sometimes I don't. I'm noticing it a little bit on this model, the way I have it dialed in, but other than that, that model sounds sick. They have a Mark IIc Plus model on here, which I actually thought sounded pretty good. But I'm actually gonna leave the controls the way they are on the amp, and that's because if we go into the EQ section on here, go into edit, guess what's at the very bottom? A VEQ, and it's all the exact same EQ frequencies that you would find on a Mesa Mark EQ slider on the amp. So in my opinion, another awesome feature. I love that. We're gonna turn that EQ off. Let's go back into that amp modeling. Let's see if we can find another model that we like. Let's try that Fryman HB. That one sounds great. That one has a lot of clarity with the presence and the treble up. It's got a lot of top end chime. Tangerine R100. Definitely has the orange thing, lots of saturation, very round mids. Let's go to Rector Dual Modern, M for Modern. That is actually a really good modern Mesa amp sim right there. Here's the Dual V for vintage. Let's try the vintage versus the modern. Okay, so the vintage, not as aggressive, more forward in the mids. The modern is scoopier, bigger in the low end. Both of those are awesome. The modeling, guys, the actual amp units on this thing, super, super good. Really impressed with what we've gone through so far. Let's fine tune this one a little bit. Let's get a little bit less gain, a little bit more presence, a little bit more treble. Love that. All right, so that sounds good. We're gonna save that. Now, let's kind of mess around with the cab section a little bit. So we were on that angle the entire time. Let's try a triple 412. All right, so we have a U87 mic type, which is not my choice for high gain tones. Let's go to the 57. All right, so pretty good, still bright up top. Let's bring that high cut down again. Let's cut it off around 10K. I don't know what the hell I was trying to do there, but I failed miserably. So that one sounds good. I'm definitely digging the triple 412 UK T75. That sounds like a 75 impulse response. Not good. Let's try a different cab. The Dizzy 412 on another model that I just recently tested out was one that I really liked. It sounds like a mic'd up K100, which I don't really like K100s under the mic that much, so let's try a different one. Here's an Eddy 412. I'm assuming this is a newer 5150 cab, an EVH. All right, I'm already liking that. Let's play with these mic positions. Let's go back in. Let's get that high cut. Let's bring that back down to, again, around that 10 to 11K area. Sounds good. Not my favorite, but it does sound pretty good. Here's the Rector 412. All right, so as far as the high gain stuff, lots of good things in here. I found multiple impulse responses I liked. I really love the functionality, the ability to choose the microphone, the ability to place the microphone, the high, the low cut. Like, seriously awesome functionality as far as this stuff goes. Let's see how it does with a lower output pickup and a more, well, a less belligerent setting. Let's do some low to mid gain stuff real quick, see how it handles that. All right, guys, so I have my Heritage H150 with the Duncan Antiquity in it. And maybe for the first time ever, I'm excited to share mid gain tones with you guys. And that's because I dialed in a preset that I really, really liked before this video. So on this preset, we have a JCM 800 with a UK greenback cab. We've got a Screamer boost in front, which is foot switchable. So we can turn that boost on and off. My guitar needs tuned real quick before we check this out, so let's see how well the tuner works. Sounds good to me. All right, so I'm gonna roll my volume down. Let's see how this reacts to different volumes. So as you guys can see, very responsive to the volume control on this lower gain preset that we have going on. This thing actually also nails like the clanginess, the kerrang, as a lot of people say, of the JCM 800 that most models that I've found don't. They always sound darker and like way less stringy than a JCM 800 with the gain pulled back a little bit. I love that. Like, very much feels like a genuine JCM 800. And on top of that, we can go ahead and click our boost in front and really kind of kick up the gain. So, in my humble opinion, I think that that is one of the better JCM 800 amp sims on one of these budget modelers that I have heard. I really do think it sounds awesome. We also have an SLO crunch channel here. Turn our boost off. Seriously. This one is really doing well on those lower gain tones. That is an excellent crunch channel. Last but not least, I'm gonna show you guys something that I never really dive into, and it's just because I was so impressed with it when I was messing around with it, and that is the bass tones on this thing, because there is bass, amps, cabs, and even distortion. So we're gonna check out a little preset I have, and then we're gonna call it a day on this one. All right, guys, so this is the Belligerent bass preset that I have set up here. If we go in, we've got a Mesa 400 bass model, one of the best bass amps of all time. For a cab, we're using an Ampeg 810 and nothing else at the moment. So here's what we got. So awesome, clean, scooped out bass tone, very rock and roll sounding, but we can go in here, we can turn on a compressor if we want. So that smooths and levels everything out and takes a little bit of that edge off. It works great. And over here for FX2, we have a bass crusher pedal, which to my ears kind of sounds like it's doing the dark glass thing. So let's go ahead and turn that on. Last but not least, we are going to run it real quick through my Amped One power amp here into the Soldano 412 cab with an SM57, and we're going to hear one or two of those amp models without the cab and how it sounds out into the room. All right, guys, so I'm back in my belligerent preset. We have our cab block turned off, and for the amp, we are back on that Fryman HB because I was really digging the way that that sounded. We've got the Super Drive on out in front. I'm going to pull the volume back just a tad. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today on the Hotone Ampero Mini. Obviously, you guys know that I'm gushing over this thing. I think it's awesome. I want to know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought about the functionality, what you thought about the tones down below. I doubt anyone has any experience with this yet because it is literally brand new on the market. If you would like to pick it up for yourself, down in the description and in the link in the comments of this video is what I meant to say. I will put the link for you guys to check this out. Again, 229 bucks, brand new. I think it's an awesome deal, but again, I want to know what you guys think. Put it down below in the comments of this video. And yeah, thanks again to Hotone for sending this out, for sponsoring this video. I very much appreciate it. And if you want to see me dive further into the world of digital amp modeling, which I'm sure a lot of my viewers will be angry about because they're old and fussy, but that's okay. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Thanks so much for watching. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.